Welcome back to The Human Impact. Let's talk globalization and health. In today's episode, we'll be exploring the pressing real-world consequences of rapid technological advancement and the rising tide of global consumption. Specifically, we'll investigate how the overwhelming volumes of Western electronic waste, or e-waste, place disproportionate environmental and health burdens on vulnerable regions and local migrant laborers. So how did this begin? Where should we start? Societies driven by technology produce staggering piles of e-waste, outdated laptops, phones, batteries, and circuit boards that are labeled as obsolete, unappealing, or broken in pursuit of the next upgrade. In 1976, the United States passed the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, or RCRA, committing to oversee e-waste management from, quote, cradle to grave. This sweeping declaration significantly increased the costs associated with e-waste recycling. Consequently, to reduce expenses, electronics industries began exporting e-waste to locations with low-cost labor for dismantling, enabling quick and economical recovery of valuable components. This shift led to the increased use of facilities such as prisons or overseas plants, where dismantling could be performed cheaply. However, unprotected by the Occupational Safety and Health Act, or OSHA, many of these informal recycling areas utilize risky, bare-handed dismantling alongside smashing and burning techniques, exposing laborers and their communities to a witch's brew of e-waste toxic contaminants, including heavy metals, lead, mercury, arsenic, cadmium, selenium, chromium, zinc, copper, nickel, as well as various plastics and polybrominated flame retardants that are not biodegradable and accumulate in the environment through soil, air, water, and ultimately seep into the human body. Scattered across the surface, these toxic materials reportedly enter the body through inhalation, ingestion, dermal contact, and placental transfer. My personal awareness of this issue stems from Chen Xifan's Waste Tide. It's a near-future science fiction that takes place in the underbelly of an e-waste dismantling plant. It's this whole aisle that has a toxic stench, an assault of hot air, and people living tightly among the trash. I had no idea that this was a real circumstance, and the book itself is based on a real place that we're going to be talking about a lot today, Quayu. In general, the idea of women doing laundry in black water with their bare hands or prosthetic limbs being used as common toy cars, with young children playing joyously in filth, was just a completely new concept to me and a defamiliarization of real-world themes and contexts that made me think about my own e-waste habits and the life cycle of my e-waste. Today, spurred by the great age of electronics, rapid technological advancement, and rampant consumerism, the Western obsession with frequently upgrading gadgets, much like changing clothes, has emerged stronger than ever. Thus, toxic e-waste has emerged as one of the fastest growing waste streams. In 2010, approximately 20 to 50 million tons of e-waste were generated, with 70% of this lump sum and 75% of the US e-waste alone exported to China. According to the United Nations 2024 Global E-Waste Monitor, a record 62 million metric tons of e-waste was generated in 2022, marking an 82% increase since 2010. Notably, this number is projected to grow by another 32% by 2030, reaching 82 million metric tons. Ultimately, these rapidly evolving e-waste conditions contribute to severe environmental pollution in concentrated underdeveloped locales. The discarded e-waste poses significant health risks to e-waste dismantling workers and their local communities, as Americans' continued willful negligence of this harm caused by e-waste dumping exacerbates the problem. Let's bring in some key themes by talking about Davis's 2019 Anthropocene, Capitalocene, a manifesto for ecological justice in an age of global crises. With e-waste pollution, the dire consequences of rapid globalization as impacting environmental health can be best explained by the manipulation and destruction of planet ecologies through the human-driven Anthropocene era and its subset Capitalocene. The Anthropocene refers to the age of humans, or the period of time beginning with the Industrial Revolution, in which rapid global change and environmental shifts, typically adverse, long-lasting, and potentially irreversible, are catalyzed by humans as geologic agents. When discussing e-waste, such human-environmental relationships are influenced by precarious human activity, particularly within the context of colonization and accelerating and converging technological advancement and resource extraction on local geologies profoundly shaping the Earth, contributing to global ecological crises that ultimately manifest within individual bodies. Within the Anthropocene, an imagined Capitalocene subset best describes e-waste dismantling logic, encapsulating the accelerating destructive, misaligned logic of unsustainable resource depletion, labor, and environmental degradation privileged by a global capitalist system. The Capitalocene specifically goes beyond suggesting that humanity is responsible for catastrophic environmental change. Instead, it focuses on human-driven structures of power and inequality, alongside the underlying devaluation of human life in pursuing capital gain, as inflicting socio-ecological violence. Human labor is a distinct element within a broader constellation of exploited life forms, within which well-being is tied to and dependent on regulating the capitalist impact on externalities of the human and non-human world. The labor of migrant workers in the e-waste industry epitomizes the Capitalocene's logic, as their health and safety are sacrificed for the profit-driven demands of global consumerism, exposing them to hazardous materials while alleviating the e-waste burden for wealthier regions. There are many e-waste dismantling plants throughout the world, particularly in Asia. However, we're going to be focusing on Queya. Queya is a highly polluted, defining example of the e-waste issue. Nowhere is this Capitalocene struggle more realized than in the small 52-kilometer city of Queyu in the Chaoyang district of Guangdong province, located in southern China with a population of 150,000. This area is the best choice to explore the devastating impacts of offloading e-waste recycling, as Queyu primarily deals with foreign exports and is infamously known as the wasteland, the electronic graveyard, the toxic capital, the e-waste capital of the world. Significantly, Queyu's adverse conditions hinge on the accumulation of human-constructed waste. Notorious for its foul, pungent, penetrating smell and its acidic black rivers, it may come as no surprise that the world's most toxic place is not found, but made. So, how can we effectively counter this issue? Well, what makes an effective solution? Although necessary, the pitfalls of relying solely on downstream or band-aid solutions, like providing personal protective equipment, PPE, gloves, respiratory protection during e-waste melting, which mitigates health risks, such as, respiratory disorders, cancer, it becomes clear when viewed in context why we might need more. While these measures are crucial for protecting workers in the short term and treating the problem, they only address the immediate effects, not the root causes. Incorporating upstream structural solutions, some sort of prevention, might involve targeting consumerism, promoting sustainable electronics design, pushing for policies that prevent e-waste dumping, and fundamentally transforming how electronic products are made, used, and discarded. Only through this, broader, more systematic approaches can we hope to curb the flow of e-waste to vulnerable regions and ultimately transform e-waste dumping practices for the better. So let's talk solutions. To combat these issues, let's focus on 1, taking direct action against corporation, and 2, advocacy and education. From a direct action perspective, one must look towards dismantling structural determinants. According to Stonington 2018, structural determinants refer to the broader systems, policies, and societal structures that create and maintain inequalities. These includes the systematic root causes of health disparities, governance, policies, discrimination, hierarchies, and power structures that shape how resources and opportunities are distributed within a society, thereby influencing social determinants and health. Clearly, there's a need for stricter standards. We should definitely be tackling structural policies. There's something called the polluter pays principle, PPP, which pushes for policy changes and commercial accountability for electronic goods while ratifying an extended producer responsibility, an EPR policy that holds producers responsible for their products after sale, including disposal. I love this. Corporate culprits should be responsible for the burden of their own e-waste offloading by making all major electronic companies financially and logistically responsible for the tail end of electronic recycling. We can make that happen. This will push them towards using more recyclable, non-toxic materials. We could start thinking about tax breaks for more recyclable eco-design products, or also offer subsidies for the safe recycling of electronics. Furthermore, we should be imposing standards to reduce the use of toxic contaminants in the design phase of electronics. Developing alternatives to these materials lends itself to difficult questions of cost and function. Sun et al.'s 2015 piece describes a potential solution in integrating multiple electronic devices into one, combining tablets, combining laptops, so there's a natural reduction in hazardous material use entering dismantling plants. It's all about marketing. But what can we do on a personal level? Maybe pause before making the decision about your next upgrade. Do you really need it? Stemming from this is the importance of social innovation and advocacy. By educating the American public about the harms of overconsumption and promoting accountability and demands for reforms, we can make real change. It is all about recognizing political and social change as a mechanism of improving health, implementing a series of targeted awareness campaigns to encourage consumers to adopt a sustainable, longer product lifetime mindset, countering the current out-of-sight, out-of-mind constructions. I propose a campaign called Innovate. Through the lens of e-waste impacts, a campaign that has many facets. First, encouraging the American public to reimagine material culture as having this life history, promoting a life cycle and aftermath consideration that exists beyond immediate immediate use and extends to cultural, environmental, and historical significance, from design to production, use, reuse, disposal, etc. In the long term, things are not merely things, but instead reflect social values, norms, and priorities. By this, we can encourage the public to consider the afterlife of their devices as they buy. The Innovate campaign acknowledges that even though many people will likely still discard electronics, the public should still be equipped with the knowledge that they can discard in better ways, such as donating to extend the object's life history. The second aspect of Innovate is that it would promote collaborations and collectives. One aspect of Innovate is a potential campaign series, Voices from Cuellar, a compilation of migrant testimonies and experiences compiled in one place. This could expand to other e-waste dismantling hotspots, other Voices from XYZ, to illuminate the lived experiences of families and workers affected by e-waste dismantling. Innovate may benefit from continuous collaborative engagement with larger organizations and movements, such as partnering with the UN's e-waste coalition to organize local community e-waste collection drives where people can drop off their old electronics.